Well, my name is Phil Nanney. I was born in Baldwin, Mississippi on June 22nd, 1950. I grew up in an unconventional household. My father was a permanent disabled veteran from World War II, and so things were not always the same. But he loved music and bought my first guitar for a Christmas present, and also allowed me to get involved with the high school band in Baldwin. So that was my first real touch with learning the mechanics of music and learning to enjoy doing music. Of course, I played rock and roll, all that kind of stuff coming in the 60s. So, boy that could play anything ended up in a garage band of some kind. And we played a lot. But band was my forte. Gave me the opportunity to be the high school drum major for 3 years at Baldwin. Got a music scholarship to Ole Miss to be in the band over there. And after my freshman year, was given the opportunity to be the Ole Miss Rebel Marching Band drum major for 3 years. Now, Sylvia and I got married between our freshman and sophomore years in college. She was a vocal music major, and I changed my major and became an instrumental music major. So our paths were intertwined our whole married life through music, primarily, whether it be church music or theater music or going to concerts or whatever. So music has been the primary art form for us. And I remember I had gotten my first teaching job in Yazoo City, beautiful downtown Yazoo City, as the assistant band director. And she decided she wanted to go to choir because she was a choir person, I was not. And I said, that's fine, I'll just stay home and watch TV Wednesday night. And so be it. A thunderstorm came up. She was terrified of the weather. I'm still going to choir and you're going to take me. No. Oh yes, that's what's going to happen. So I drove her to choir and sat in the back of the sanctuary. And within 2 or 3 minutes, a couple of men from the choir came and said, you're the new band director, you're going to come sing. So that was my first experience singing. That's how I got involved in choir. And it's been a joy to be involved in that. I'm not a great singer, but I love the mechanics of choir. And I've been in and out of church music for 48 years, maybe. Bob Gray was minister of music at First Baptist Church here and gave me the opportunity to be involved in some things. And then he orchestrated my first opportunity to direct the church choir in Baldwin, as a matter of fact, as an interim while they were looking for some people. So I did that several years. But theater starting, my starting in theater, which is my primary avenue now, or has been, is was founded in Tupelo. Sylvia, again, wanted to go audition for a musical. The band parents organization there was putting on Hello Dolly. No, Music Man, excuse me. Music Man was the first one. And she wanted to audition. Well, I'll go sit in the back again because I'm a trombone player, And so Linda Stevens came and made me come up and audition. And she gave me a part of Olin Britt in the Barbershop Quartet. And her line after that is, I got him on stage and now I can't get him off. So since that time, I've probably been in, directed, produced, worked on backset 120 different productions of some sort or other. So theater has been a huge part of our lives. I was at my desk at work one day and Kenneth Quinn called, and he had seen some of the stuff that we did in Tupelo. And he said, I'm having a little, not difficulty, but a little situation with my high school musical. We're just doing seniors. I said, yeah, I know. I did one of the earlier ones on with that. And he said, what would your solution do for us to expand this, to grow it? And I said, well, Kenneth, let me ask you one question. If your high school football coach could only start seniors and they had never played junior high, junior varsity football, how good would your team be? He said, probably not very good. I said, well, right now, Kenneth, you're asking kids who've never been on stage to take a piece of music theater, perform it, and they don't know stage left from stage right. They've never had any training. Well, what are we going to do? I said, you need to make it a school-wide event so that all kids have the opportunity to be in it, starting in the 9th grade. Well, I don't know if we can do that or not. I'll call you back. A few days later, he called and said, well, the board said it's okay and you're going to direct. I said, but I don't work for the school. He said, well, you and Sylvia can do it. She works for the school, so we'll put you two in charge of it. She'll be official and you'll be behind the scenes. I said, I like that. So we agreed to do that, and we did Oklahoma. And she and I did 20 plays together. And we started with a situation where only the leads, or all the leads, would be seniors. And the next year, all the leads would be juniors and seniors. And then after that, it was wide open. So Mary Beth was a sophomore, and she had an opportunity to be in the first production we did. And she graduated, and then Philip came along and got involved in it. And of course, both of them had been on stage crawling around during all of our productions, so stage was not anything new to them. But both of them really took to the stage and enjoyed doing it. So I think Philip and maybe Elizabeth Jocelyn, their senior years, were the first two to graduate, having done 4 consecutive musicals. And it just started from there. And Mary Beth went away to school, Philip went away to school, and then when they came home, they immediately got back involved. And so Mary Beth was doing choreography, and Philip was helping me build sets and teaching and doing different things. And then when Sylvia passed, it was the obvious thing to hand it off to Mary Beth because she was in the school system. She had the knowledge to do it. And so she assumed Sylvia's role, and Philip assumed my role. And now they're doing exceptional things. So the theater program is strong. Not only do we have the high school production every year, but also middle school, elementary school work. And so it's a strong art form. The thing that pleases me most about it is it's not just starters. It's not just stars. Every year we have at least one student show up and we say, where have you been? Why have you hidden this talent? What grade are you in? Well, I'm a senior. My goodness, why were you not here for 3 more years? You would have done exceptional things. So we're always happy to see that. And then we have those who start young, like Kanan. We won't be able to get Kanan off the stage. He's a natural. Whit Robbins. I mean, we had a kid to go to the Jimmy Awards in New York. And now Mary Beth and Philip have led them to winning outstanding performance at the Orpheum Music Theater Awards. And so it's alive and well. It's doing good. I don't know what else to say other than New Albany is such an exceptional town in the way they embrace the arts. What they've done for this museum. There's not another community our size that has anything comparable to this museum. We have ballet. We have a great band program in the school system. We have a good choral program as well. They're exceptional. So the arts are alive and well. And that's not just those performing arts, but those creative arts. That's another thing the musical does every year. It gives students under the tutelage of the art teacher at the high school to let their creativity just flow. Well, we want to make these things, and they go to work and they make them with their hands, with their brains. And, you think, well, we have to have help building sets. Well, the building and trades director, Rick Robbins, for years, and before him, Billy Matkins, helped us with construction projects for the theater. So it ties all of those beneficial art forms together, whether it's doing the program or, we have a former student two former students who have helped us with the programs and have won awards for it. And so to see these, I call them my kids, go on to be mature and still be doing things. One of our former students has been the head character director for Walt Disney World because of his love for theater. He actually changed high schools so he could be in the theater. So you don't know what those long-term benefits are going to be for these kids. And it doesn't have to be the Ansley or the Lily Faith or any of those kids who are on stage with the name characters. But we try to emphasize the fact that every single person is important to the overall outcome of the production. So a kid on the second row of the choir is just as important to us as that one leading out front. Now, we may spend more time with that one out front. That doesn't lessen the value of those kids. Well, I'm just in the choir. I'm just in the chorus. I just dance. No, you sing in the choir and you dance and you're Bible. So all of that comes together to help mold those students. And I love to see their joy. And this is strange, but I love to see their tears when that last performance is over and they realize this is never, ever, ever going to happen again. Not just like this. It's something unique. And then when that balloon pops, it's all over. So that's kind of my story with the theater here in New Albany and those things. Well, I love band. I had an opportunity at Ole Miss to really be tutored by some really great band directors who were working there. And I came out of school. We both graduated a semester early, had to have a job, so I took one with Yazoo City. Left there, went to a small school in Alabama for a couple of years, and then came to New Albany. And New Albany was in a transition stage. I was hired by a superintendent and a principal, and when I came to go to work in June, both of them were gone. So I learned two new people who were my bosses and immediately went to work. I had gotten a taste of drum and bugle corps style marching, and I wanted to incorporate that. So the first year I was here, we started sideline to sideline, and they'd been traditionally marching end zone to end zone, yard line, diamond drills, and that was a struggle. It was a real struggle. But over the 3 years that I was here, they turned into a really, really good, enjoyable marching band. I wasn't a great concert director. That was not my forte. I love to perform and have my kids perform for a lot of people. And marching band was that opportunity. I think when I got here, we had like 65 or 70 maybe in a high school group. And after 3 years, we had 128 on the field. And we had some who didn't march because they were maybe cheerleaders or football players or whatever. But, you know, God blessed. And it was a creative thing. And I just wore out, decided I needed to do something different. But some of my best friends now are former students who went through that transition with me and helped us. I had great friends who were band directors who supported that. So it was a fun experience, but it came to an end.
Now, is that what brought you to New Albany?
That's what brought me to New Albany.
Okay.
I student taught at New Albany. Sylvia and I student taught. We got out of college a semester early, so we student taught in the fall of our senior year. And she came in and worked with elementary education, elementary music, and also with the high school choral program. And James Townsend was the band director, and he kind of took me under his wing, and he let me teach, and he let me direct. And I went away and went to Yazoo City and then made the circle back to New Albany. Best move I ever made. New Albany's been a great town for my kids. It was a great town for Sylvia and me. And it's home. It's home. And to see them here and flourishing in what they're doing and taking things to the next level, that's a joy. But New Albany is a haven for artistic and artistically minded people. Like I said before, it's everything. And it could be some guy turning wood products on his lathe, making beautiful bowls or vases or whatever. Or it could be somebody singing a beautiful solo, or painting a picture, or doing sculpture, or doing presentations of a story. You know, people think theater is a whole different world, but it's not. It's a very ancient art form, and it started with, hey kids, gather around a campfire, let me tell you a story. Chaucer's Canterbury Tales was all stories that were told around the campfires. And so theater is just an evolution of that storytelling, and then acting it out, and then acting it out on the stage, and seeing Shakespeare and Marlowe compete for the #1 spot in the London theater. So, you know, most people think it goes back to that, but it's far older. And so to see storytelling here at the theater is a revival of that art form. We all do it. I tell my stories over and over. Oh, have I told you that story? Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you again because it's important to me. And it's more than opening a book and reading. You need to tell the stories of your legacy, of what life has been like for you. And we have a wealth of characters in this town who have lived very diverse lives. And you go around the coffee table at the local hangout or the domino parlor or whatever, and you hear guys tell stories. That's art form. It's art form, and it's catching because everyone wants to tell a story just a little better. You know, my fish was a little bigger than your fish, or I caught 3 and you only caught 2. So, you know, I think every time we do something, we're telling a story, no matter how complex or how simple that story might be. And you know, I'm a stickler when it comes to theater. I want every word included in your dialogue that's written. And I want the correct emphasis on the right word and the correct emphasis on the syllable in that right word. Because people who write these things, playwrights, they spend months developing this dialogue. And it's down so that it's timed perfectly to work with the musical compositions that are done. And it's also written so that it leads one character to follow you and to respond to what you say. So it's important that those few words be right that trigger that next response. And somebody said, how do you learn your lines? Well, you do that by just going over verbatim. But when you get on stage, you forget that. And if you're really in character on stage, you respond. And what's your response? That line that you've learned. And that's why it's so vital for us to make sure that we're true to the word, true to the song, so that it all works together in one precise, mechanical function. Part of my background is not just music, it's mechanics. And I like things that piece together and everything in its place and a place for everything. Now, my house is not that way, but that's okay. I want the theater to be that way. You know, and it's been a joy to see the Magnolia as it's come along. I hate that we lost the director who was there, who's doing so many magnificent things. But it's a great opportunity. I mean, we have ballet. We've had ballet. How many little towns our size have the quality of those functions, ballet and things like that we have? And a lot of that is because we have a place to showcase it. So when you showcase your art, you want your art to be better and better and better. Just like Riverfest, when these artists bring in the things, they want to have the best thing there so they can sell it. But more than that, to have their art recognized. And I go back to theater, and having the last several years participated in the Orpheum High School Music Theater Awards program, and seeing how we've gone from one step to the next step to the next step, and then this past year they won Outstanding Production from a 5-state area. That's pretty significant. And then the year before, one lead actor who was one of 50 nationwide to perform on the Lion King stage in New York City. I ramble a lot, but it's all about that precision, that preciseness, and understanding. Ruth Lavakis was our mentor in Tupelo. And of course, she had lots of quaint sayings, but one we always tell our kids, and I'll end with this, is inasmuch as you enjoy your performance, your audience will enjoy your performance. You gotta love what you're doing. And if you do, it'll show. And I remember one time we were doing a thing called Paint Your Wagon at Tupelo Community Theater when it was down on East Main Street in that old church building they had bought. And I had the opportunity to play Ben Rumson. And in that play, his daughter asks him, "Daddy, tell me about Mama again," because her mother had died years before. And he sings a song about, "I still see Eliza. I still," anyway, all about his love for his wife. And I'm sure it was the Friday night performance, but in front of me, about 4 rows back, was a little gray-headed lady, and she broke, just squalled. And I'm thinking, am I that bad? Is this so terrible that I'm making her ears hurt? And we finished the show, and I didn't think much about it, but she came up afterwards and said, "I want you to know," and I said, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you." She said, "You don't understand. I lost my husband a few weeks ago, and because of that tonight, I was able to end my grief and enjoy my joy because I can still remember him." So those things, as much as you enjoy, your audience will enjoy. And the second, Ruth 1-2, as we call it, was getting character, staying character. The hardest thing for young people to do is develop the character of that person they're portraying. Because you've got to cease being yourself and become that person. And the ones who do it best lose themselves in that character. And it's a joy to watch. They start out fumbling along, and all of a sudden it comes together. And there's Mary Poppins, or there's Dolly, all of those things. So it's just, it's an amazing opportunity for our kids. Theater is a magical box that transports its actors from place to place through time and allows them to experience life in another way. And I think it's life-changing because of that. So it's not just, let's go put on a play. Let's develop as people. Let's understand that there's more to life than what we see in front of our faces. And let's experience. And by doing that, their creativity expands. And you see them become more confident, more resolved to do their best, and more in tune with what you're asking them to do and to become. So it's being on this side of the stage is just as joyful to me as being on the other side of the curtain because of the kids, because of my 2 kids, and watching them expand and grow and develop. And now I got grandkids who are doing the same thing, and it's just another opportunity. It's another vehicle for growth and development. And I can ramble on and on and on about it, but it's just so good. My house was unconventional because my dad was blind. He was wounded in Normandy in World War II. And one of my earliest remembrances, I didn't realize, I knew there was something different about him, but I really didn't realize what it was. Until one day my mother, in Baldwin you could do this, dropped me off in the street, said go in the barbershop and get your hair cut. So I walked in and sat down. One of the barbers said, "I'll get to you next, thank you, sir." And one of the guys sitting there said, "That's a polite kid. Who is he?" And he told me my dad's name. He said, "You know the blind man that lives down on South 2nd Street?" And I thought, that's what's different. That's the thing that makes our world different. I was probably 5, 6. And to grow up with his influence. Now, he and I were not best friends until I was grown. My brother was older, and so they were close and did a lot of things together. But I remember my dad taught me to drive. I sat in my mom's lap steering, but we had an old truck that we had to carry here, there, and yonder to do stuff. And my dad dabbled in used cars. And if he needed a part, and Mama was busy and couldn't drive him, which was generally her job, is just to take care of him. "Come on, son, get the keys to the truck. We need to go out to so-and-so and pick up a part." Well, I'm 10 years old. "Okay, Dad, here we go." And I knew how to mash the accelerator, the brake, and the clutch, but I couldn't shift gears. And so he would sit beside me and tell me when to clutch and shift gears. And we would go all over North Mississippi. And I learned so much at his feet about being a good guy and not being willing to accept circumstance. You know, people say, "Well, man, I sure am sorry for you." I said, "Don't be sorry for me. I just don't drive a car, and I can't read a book. But I can do anything else." And he proved that to be true. I was a master woodworker, cabinet builder, master mechanic. Could just do anything. He raised livestock in his early years. So I just learned you just never give up. And you just keep on going, because sooner or later, you're going to get right what's wrong, or you're going to find what's lost, or you're going to create something that's never been seen before. And so that it was unconventional, but it was good. I remember when I was in college, I would come home before Sylvia and I got married, and he was waiting for me every Friday night after I'd come in if I didn't have a football game to go to. And he'd say, "Coffee's in the pot, go turn it on." And we'd sit there and talk for a couple of hours and drink coffee, because he wanted to know what I was studying, because he never had the opportunity for an education. And when I explained algebra to him, he said, "Oh yeah." I said, "You do it every day, Dad. You solve problems. You take what you know and find out what the unknown is." And it's that. And so it was quite an unusual experience. They would come to my football games when I was marching, and Mom would park the car somewhere, and then Dad would come stand by the fence to hear the band. And this is a crazy story, but I'm going to tell you anyway. When I was growing up, we would watch TV together. And so one night, Dad and I were watching TV, and a movie came on about World War II. And it happened to be the very movie, or the very military thing that he was involved in. He was something to do with St. Lo and moving to Cherbourg. They were on their way to capture St. Lo, I think, in France. And my habit was to describe to him what was going on the TV. And it didn't matter if it was Roy Rogers or Sky King or anything. It was just natural for me to talk to him. And so I got started describing this place, and when it started, it said it was made on location in France, using leftover military vehicles and all that kind of stuff. And so we're sitting there, and I start describing, and he takes over describing the scene. And he tells me about how there was a T in the road, and there was an old farmhouse, and there was a silo, and there was this tree and that tree and something else. And I said, "That's great, Dad. How'd you?" And he said, "That corner's where I got shot." And so, you know, you remember those stories. And came home one night and said, "What play are y'all working on?" I said, "Well, we're doing a story about this blind deaf girl and her caregiver. He taught her how to communicate." "Oh, Helen Keller." I said, "Yes, sir. It's called The Miracle Worker. It's really about the lady more than it is about Helen Keller." And he said, "Yeah, I knew her." I said, really, Dad? Okay, I believe you. You've never lied to me. I believe you. He said, yeah, she used to come over to Old Farms, which was the rehabilitation site for boys who were blinded during D-Day and the invasion. And it was an old boys' school outside of Hartford, Connecticut, where the upper class young men were sent to be trained. And they had taken it over as a rehabilitation site for the blinded veterans. And he said, yeah, she used to come and have lunch with us at Old Farms. I said, yeah, Dad, sure. I believe you. I believe you. Well, curiosity. I got on the computer and started looking up stuff. And I found a website that had a calendar for Helen Keller. And she must have been aged, late in her ages. Visited my boys at Old Farms. Visited my boys at Old Farms. So I'll never forget that kind of thing. Quite a character. Gave me a lot of insight into life. So I could ramble on.
How old were you when your dad passed away?
Oh, my dad lived a long life. He was 92. So I was in my early 40s, or late, middle 40s when he passed away. Because my brother was born in 1941. They had gotten married the year before, and he was born in, they had moved to Arkansas for a farm where they could farm. And my dad was running a plantation that grew soybeans and corn and rice that they were selling to the military. So he was not drafted. And when the draft emphasis for the D-Day invasion came along, he was registered with the Itawamba County Draft Board. And they said, well, he's not living here, just draft him. He was 38 years old, soon to be 39. And no, soon to be 40. He was 39 years old, and he was drafted. And 29 years old, and he was drafted. And was in combat 18 days in France, and mortar shell blew beside him, blinded him instantly. You know, just one of those things. Yeah, my math's not good today. You got me.
So he's 29.
Yeah, he was born in 1914. He went into the war in the spring of 1944. So he was looking to his 30th birthday.
Which was old for...
Oh, very old.
I mean, compared to the other kids.
He said most of the guys around me were 18, 19 years old. And he was a marksman with a 30 caliber water-cooled machine gun. And the week before they were going over, his platoon sergeant came to him, handed him a M1 rifle and said, "You're now in the infantry, go shoot." And so he went across the Pacific, the Atlantic, to England, and was there for 2 or 3 months before the invasion. He did not go in on D-Day. He went in a few days after. But his story about what was going on, he was there on July the 4th. He was wounded the morning of July the 5th, and I'm writing that. I'm writing that down because it's a marvelous story. First, being 4th of July, it was the first warm rations they had had in 2 weeks. He hadn't had a bath in 2 or 3 weeks, you know. But it was a good day because they got to eat something besides K ration. And he got up that morning of July the 5th, and his company commander said, "Take these boys down to so-and-so," and he was on a mission to carry them down along with some messages. And he said, "I don't know what happened to them. I don't know," because he said, "We were lying there pinned down by machine guns, and all of a sudden, mortar shell fell, and fell, and fell, and then it got us." And he said, "I don't know what happened to them." So it was a long day for him. He was on the battlefield, wounded from 9 in the morning until about 4 in the afternoon before they could ever get him out of the battle. So that's another story.
What was your dad's name?
Buford.
Buford?
Buford Milton.
What was your degree in at Ole Miss?
Music, instrumental music
Okay.
education. It was a liberal arts degree, so we didn't have to take all the education stuff because all the music stuff was contained through the liberal arts program. So I had an instrumental emphasis and Sylvia had a vocal emphasis.
But now you ended up having a career very opposite of that, right?
Yeah, yeah. When I went to school, I thought I wanted to be a doctor. But I decided I didn't want to do that. But all of my pre-college testing had me set to be a mechanical engineer. And so I'm a math person. Everything I do is math. Kids, my choir will say, well, why do we do? I said, it's just math. Music is math. All the way from the vibrations you sing to the meter we play. And math and mechanics, mechanical things are probably deeply rooted in my experience. Yeah, I was a sales engineer for HNC Technologies for almost 11 years. And I enjoyed that a lot. Traveled all over the United States, 2 or 3 foreign countries, talking to engineers in manufacturing and helping them solve problems. And that's what I enjoy doing, is fixing things or dreaming things. And I might go to a medical manufacturer and they'd give me a handful of parts and we want a machine to put these together. Well, what does it look like when it's finished? Well, I'd have a sample of all the parts and the finished product and come home and start trying to figure out how to put it together mechanically, whether with robots or actuators or however it might need to be. And David McMillan was my mentor in that. We had a great time. He taught me a lot of stuff about engineering that I would never have gotten. But it was a fun thing. And Ray Huffman was our sales manager, and Ray didn't like to fly. So he said, I'll take all of them, clients I can drive to, and I'll have my pick, and everything else is yours. So I was everywhere from Toronto, Canada, to down in Mexico, from the East Coast to the West Coast. And it was enjoyable, because I love traveling. But a business trip's not really a great trip, but you do get to experience some different cultures. And so that was a good thing for me, and I enjoyed it. Learned a lot about robotics and engineering and that kind of thing, so it's good for me. I like to learn something new every day. Whatever challenge comes up, I want to figure out a way to solve that challenge. And if that challenge is putting a play on stage, putting a choir together for church, writing a musical, trying to figure out how to make dishwasher motors come together with a machine. It's all that, I don't know how, but I want to figure out how. And I know my resources, and I utilize those resources, and I just love to solve a problem and deal with a situation. That's what I've done forever almost. And see, I'm retiring from the church the end of December. I've got almost 50 years in church music. I've finished 25 years at Dingerbar and GM, so I'm going to retire unless the Lord leads in a different direction. But what are you going to do? And I thought, what can I do? What do I need to do? Well, I can get another job, and I can do this, but theater's my legacy. And so I'm thinking possibly an academy, and help kids understand before they get to that stage of being on stage what's left, stage right, up stage, down stage, why. So they understand the theory of what they're being told to do. And then how to correctly produce lines. You can take a simple sentence, the red dog went to town, and you can emphasize every word differently. The red dog went to town. 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 Or the red dog went to town. And every one of those words, every one of those emphases create a different thought process from those simple words. So when you do theater, you have to figure out which of those words are the important for the connectivity to the next line, or to the connectivity to the next person's line. And it doesn't work to me. Now that's my math. It doesn't work to me if there's not conjunction. So learning lines, learning how to deliver lines, how to analyze lines, are something you don't have time to do when you have 6 weeks to do a production. Now they have started, and we did a little of it, but not as much as Mary Beth does now, is working in November and December after auditions to work through some of these things. Some of it's dance steps, some of it's line delivery, whatever. But there's not time to direct a show on stage with youth and teach them other than, no, it's this way. Do it this way. Do it, no, you didn't do it right. Do it this way. No, not that way. Do it this way. And so there's never time to do that. And I'm thinking, why? Why can't we do it beforehand so that when the director says, this is the way I want it done, you can automatically do it because you know why. And you know, creativity, a lot of creativity is why. Well, why can't we go to the moon? Why can't we walk on the moon? Well, we can. Well, we've never done it before. Well, we can do it now. We have the way, the means. Let's do it. Miss Brassfield, bless her heart, was the senior English teacher. And it was my last year to teach at New Albany. And I had ruptured a wisdom tooth. Just destroyed it, just broke it all to pieces. And I went down to my dentist, Chuck Cruz, and he took it out. Gas, Novocaine, and all that stuff. So I came back in at the end of the day to sign out, because I hadn't signed out. And Ms. Brassfield said, I think we ought to do a musical this year. And I said, okay, let's do Oklahoma. Well, I didn't think more about it. Tuesday morning, I went to sign in. She said, I ordered the books. I said, what? You ordered what books? I ordered the books for Oklahoma. You and I are doing it. So that was my first taste of directing. And I did music direction for Oklahoma in 1977, maybe, something like that. But Ms. Brassfield made me do that. Of course, I'd already been involved in some theater in Tupelo, but that was my first taste of actually directing. And she was an English teacher, and she allowed me some liberties teaching stage, because I'd had just a little, not much. I had not had Ruth yet, so I didn't know all about it, but Miss Brassfield, and Miss Brassfield started what we have now in theater, because it had dwindled away to a senior play, but it wasn't a musical thing. Some had, I think, 2 or 3 years before, they had done Bye Bye Birdie and a few before that, but that was where its current string started. And that was too many years ago for us to count.
Was it common for high schools to have a senior play?
Yeah, and usually it was a play. I know my senior year, they were going to do Please Don't Eat the Daisies or something like that. And the teacher came in and said, well, we're not going to do a play this year. And we said, well, why? I said, because all my boys are playing baseball. So, you know, we didn't have enough boys to do everything. And there were 8 or 9 of us on the high school baseball team out of the senior class, and it was the ones of us who could probably pull it off, and so we didn't do one, so I never had the opportunity to do that. With the growth of extracurricular activities, the senior play in most schools has developed into something else. There are still some schools that do that as well as do the musical. But here, Mary Beth and Philip have chosen to do the middle school musical. So doing 2 at a camp and maybe another thing for elementary school in 1 year is not all you can handle. So I know they've had sign up for Susical Junior. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, 134 kids signed up to be in the play. They won't all make it. They won't all come. They won't all audition. But it shows the interest. You know, that's phenomenal. I think we had 140 or some odd signed up for Mary Poppins. Well, we ended up with 85 or 90 kids involved on stage, not including the 10 or 12 set movers and the set builders and the makeup ladies and the girls who did hair, and the costume, and all of that. So, you know, that's just, I think that's one reason the community has got behind it so much is, number one, is quality. It's good theater. But they see so many of their kids. I mean, if we just sold to parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles, we'd have a good crowd. When you put 80, 85 kids on stage, you know, you can have 300, 400 people at night. But I think Mary Poppins, every show was sold out in that auditorium. That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Hello, Dolly, practically every night was sold out. And all of it. You know, I wish, well, COVID did a lot of stuff that caused grief, but it kept us from spending a little bit more time in theater than we would like to have. It's phenomenal thing. You don't see programs this strong in schools our size that don't have a dedicated teacher involved in nothing but doing productions. It's just phenomenal what's going on here. And it's not me, and I promise you it's not that. It's the whole community.
Well, there's a long history. It's
Well, there
grown.
is, yeah.
You know, it didn't just happen overnight.
No.
It didn't just happen with one person.
No, not at
It's
all.
been, like you said, it started, was it even before Miss Brassfield?
They had some theater, but it was just seniors.
Yeah. But
And-
it started with, it grew from just probably a fun senior,
It was a fun thing. If
Activity.
you wanted to graduate and get a degree, get a good grade in English, you were in the play.
yeah. You had to do it,
You were in the
even if
play.
you were terrible.
Yeah. Well, you were involved some way. That was just part of being a senior.
Yeah.
You know, and it wasn't, we're going to flunk you if you don't. I'm not saying that. But you got to, I don't know if you got a grade as such, but you were looked on favorably by senior English, and you had to have that to graduate. So, you know.
Well, then the good experiences of those students, you know,
Mm-hmm.
turns into
Well,
their kids, you know, it just
Yeah,
after
it does,
generations,
it does.
it's
Mhm.
it's not only expected, but
Well, it's an opportunity. And so many now that I know that were just not really sold on it, but have kids who sold on it and are now patrons of the Orpheum. They go to every musical event up there. And they go with us anywhere we go for music. And it's good music is catching. Good theater is catching. People will get infected with it and just want to be part of it. We have some people that work backstage that I'm sure Mary Beth takes care of them for their time. But they're there because they want to be. You know, it used to be we had to recruit. Please, please come. And, you know, we lost Carrie Crane this year, and she was one that just wanted to come be a part of it. You know, I hated it. She's gone, but she was right-hand lady backstage. She won't do anything else, but she kept that script book. She's going right along with it. But you know, people just do that. They just, you know, the old adage, everybody loves a winner, but everybody loves something that is successful that they can be a part of. So that's kind of what it's evolved into. So we'll have, you know, we'll have 15 people up there working on front hall entryways like y'all used to do stuff. But now it's a car in the parking lot and all this other stuff going on. So it's gotten bigger and bigger, bigger and bigger because they know they're being looked at. So it's not a good way to say it. They're not being looked at. You don't finish the sentence with at. But anyway, they experience it. And some of them have kids involved, and that's good. They're supporting the kids. And some of them just want to be part of it. You know, it's an amazing thing. And you're part of it. A great part of it. For a number of years.
yeah. 27. The first thing I ever It was before Google, but it's the first thing I Googled on the computer was how to make a shrunken head.
Only we had.
Now, why would I have needed to know how to do that?
Probably for South Pacific.
There you go.
That was the second show we did. Oklahoma was first, South Pacific was second, Music Man was third. I believe that's right.
Yeah.
I believe that's right. After this many, it's hard to keep them all in order.
The first one I did at New Albany, when I first started teaching there, they did Meet Me in St. Louis.
Yeah, that was the last thing that was done as a senior play. We had people just, you're going to ruin this play. You're going to ruin the school by changing it from a senior. Seniors are getting guaranteed the lead roles this year. Oh, so we want to teach others to come up. Well, that kind of makes sense, because I use that football analogy 100 times. 100 times. I asked one guy, I said, do you support junior high football? Well, yeah, I don't miss a game. I said, and those kids learn how to play football, right? So that when they're juniors and seniors, they can be starters. Maybe go to college. What would happen to them if they couldn't get any training until they were seniors? They'd be very good. No, probably not. And so my idiom was, you're asking kids that don't know left from right to take a vehicle that's written by professionals, for professionals, and put it on stage in a professional manner. Impossible. And they went, I agree. I want to get into storytelling too.
Yeah, you should.
I love to tell stories.
Yeah.
And I want to teach people how to tell stories.